So thank you so much for the introduction and for, I know first of all I'm doing the toughest job here right now, and I promise to make it a little more interactive. I love to speak, and this is a topic that is very interesting to most, and I'm hoping that I'm able to give you the trends and insights to the market that you're looking forward to. For those who do not know what Frost & Sullivan is, what we do, we are a research and advisory company tracking various markets. I particularly track the cybersecurity market. I've been tracking ICT markets previously. We do have a team of analysts, consultants who are tracking automotive, industrial practices, healthcare practices, aerospace, defense, many sectors. And cybersecurity to me is a topic that is not defined to only one industry, right? So cybersecurity cuts across, and that's something which has given me the benefit of even speaking and meeting a lot of industries and understanding what their cybersecurity challenges are. The topic has so many components that in this short time that I will be speaking, I'd like to just cover what is it that you must be looking at to build more cyber resiliency into your enterprises, right? So before I start, I think cybersecurity starts with each one of you. Why? Because you can't achieve resiliency unless you have a culture that you as an individual are not willing to take forward, which means today if I have a device, if I am connected to the internet in any way, it is also my duty, it is also the way I access or the way I have the privilege to access internet, to look at some of the technologies. It is up to me how I am going to be part of this culture to help my company get and achieve that larger vision, that larger goal of building the cyber resiliency. So I think while a lot of enterprises are taking interest, and it's led by the top management today, India particularly I see is really developing much faster in this space, and we have seen the spending increase tremendously in India. So how do you really get there? So like I said, since I have come from a research and consulting organization, it starts with numbers, right? So, but before you even start with numbers, I think when you look at cybersecurity, and I think there are some key questions that you need to ask yourself as IT security heads, as key stakeholders in the organization. Is my cybersecurity strategy aligned to my digital transformation goals? We are talking about 100 things. There are different technologies that are becoming of importance to us, right? You're talking about AI, you're talking about 3D, you're talking about automation. We're talking about every industry sector is building upon new technologies. But when I look at my entire digital transformation journey, what are the IT pieces that I am looking to integrate into my organization? And is my security goals aligned, to ensure that my enterprise is able to achieve the vision that it wants, right? Second is, do I have the visibility, right? When I say visibility, there are so many devices, servers, network, cloud, right? So you're using typically all of these. Now, do I really know where the threat is going to come from, and what am I going to do with that threat? I think what we are getting today is point solutions, and when I say point solution means you're able to get, say, what's happening to your endpoints by having an EDR deployed today, right? But are you getting that larger picture? Because what is coming next is, can I trust my internal employees? Can I trust a third party? Can I trust my end users? Because they are all connected towards, today to my infrastructure, right? So we need to have that visibility because we are in a connected ecosystem today. Thirdly, we are talking about compliances. Every industry today is challenged with compliance, right? Now, while you see this as a challenge, I see that this is very welcoming if you are really, really concerned about building a cyber strategy for your organization. The reason why there are these ISOs, NIST standards, and industry-specific standards available today is to ensure that, taking examples of the larger breaches that have happened in the past, you are able to build that secure infrastructure for your organization. So are you really working with the right set of compliances today as an organization? Do you evaluate the risk, whether it is coming from security posture, if it's not right, or even the financial risk? Because we are talking about financial risk, of course, you have a brand IP, and even if, so today if you are breached, the ransomware today really costs a lot to the enterprises, right? So have you evaluated the risk if your security posture is not to the mark today? And last but not the least, when I'm talking about resilience, you really need to go from top, bottom, right from the strategy, visibility, technologies, compliances, everything, and keep re-evaluating this and look at the security gaps that are there in your infrastructure today. Unless you do not realize what are those gaps and how you really need to narrow it down, it will be very difficult for your enterprise to achieve that kind of a cyber security strategy. So there are some of these key considerations if you really want to look and take the next leap into the cyber security culture. These are some important questions that you really need to ask yourself. Now looking at some of the market trends, what's really happening out there, and we all are hearing one or the other breach that's happening almost every day. Right? India particularly, we're talking about 14 lakh cybersecurity incidents, which were reported in 21. Even 2022 seems at 6 lakhs. We are talking about so much increase, 51% increase in ransomware only in the H1 of 2022. Phishing attacks, like I said, it starts with you. Today we can control a lot when I'm talking about looking at emails, right? So why we still have phishing attacks that are increasing by 87%? That is something that really creates a lot of concerns out there to the CISOs. 15,000 plus websites hacked. We're talking about BFSI, government, healthcare, manufacturing being very, very sensitive verticals where we're seeing most number of attacks happening today, right? We're looking at cross-border cyber attacks when I'm talking about our neighboring countries, right? So there is so much of issue when I talk about the data governance, where countries are trying to really pull down the corporate servers of governments and the leading enterprises. But on a positive note, that despite the fact that there are so many incidents happening, there is a lot of awareness already that we as analysts see in the market, which means that enterprises have understood that yes, there is a need to build that cyber defense, and they have been investing. India particularly, if you see, the spending was about 2.8 billion in 2021, and we're expecting this to increase at almost 18.3% by 2030, which is a substantial increase than the way India was spending previously on cybersecurity. India was earlier ranking at 47 in 2018 by ITU, which is the International Telecommunication Union, who rank different countries on parameters which are to do with the legal, technical, compliances, etc., that the country has for its corporates and also for the governments. So there the ranking has gone from 47 to 10th, which means that the way we have looked at cybersecurity as a country, as a corporate, has significantly improved, which means that the enterprises are spending and are aware, and today we see we're ranked at number 10th, and I'm sure that in the next couple of years increases, and with the new policies that the government is taking, that we will be in a better position in the coming years. One such thing that I want to point out here, particularly when I talk about why enterprises today are really looking at cybersecurity so closely. So one, of course, I'm talking about the policies which are coming in. One such policy is coming in from certain, which means that if you are breached today, you have to report that incident in 6 hours. Now what suddenly this has created is, while as a policy this is very welcoming, but for the enterprises it is unfortunately not. I've spoken to a couple of enterprises in the last couple of months, because this policy just came in April 2022, in terms of, while they are happy that they will be able to do this, but A, they do not have that infrastructure ready today to report if a breach has happened. Sometimes it still happens that a breach has happened and they still don't know that they have been compromised, at least for a couple of days, right? So A, when you don't have an infrastructure which is ready to even say that you're breached, how will you now report that breach in 6 hours time, right? So there are a lot of discussions happening around, from a policy standpoint to how this reporting is going to be made if you do not have that infrastructure ready. One more thing that's happening around is, while I spoke about threats, etc., we are in a landscape where, there are so many technologies, that each one of us probably, I think if I'm talking about 10 things here, and these are just, some top of my mind mega trends that we talk about, which are impacting all industries globally. I'm looking at Industry 4.0, which soon, I think in the next couple of years, we'll start talking about Industry 5.0 with digital twins, with robotics, with supply chain management. There are a lot of trends and numbers that you probably see on this slide which really talk about how Industry 4.0 and how automation is going to become big in the next couple of years. 5G for that matter, I think is going to influence all of us. And the number of use cases that each industry is building today on 5G is humongous. And if you go and start talking to the IT, startups, they are today working with, say, healthcare, they are working with automotive to build 5G specific use cases. We're talking about multi-cloud as a strategy. But when we started looking at cloud in the last couple of years, a decade ago, I think SaaS, IaaS, PaaS, all of these have created immense opportunities for companies in the way they have started looking at the IT infrastructure and services, right? But even in the consumer and the commercial IoT space, when I'm talking about consumer here, I'm talking about the railways, healthcare, or the consumer when I'm talking about, say, a refrigerator today, IoT is playing a very, very significant role here. Edge computing is something we all, industries have started talking about, right? How edge computing is going to play a big role in the next 1 decade, and we will all witness. AI is already there in every industry, and I think when you talk about customer experience, when you talk about industries, each one has AI to power their industrial automation, their healthcare automation, and so on, right? So AI is already playing a big role here. OT security, you talk to any industries, any manufacturing setup today, that thin line between how to look at IT separately and OT separately is kind of diminishing. And likewise, Web 3.0, smart city concepts that and industry specific transformation. When I talk about industry specific transformation, look at the payments industry, the way we have a Google Pay or Paytm today. Not many countries really have that, right? So as a country, we have transformed so much, we have, we have imbibed technology so much. Even if you talk about healthcare today, I think globally, and I have a benefit of working with, a German client who's working so much around the healthcare, where we are talking about how IoT, with pacemakers, right, are really going to be, the mainstream there for the healthcare markets, right? Which means when I am going to give an IoT solution that is connected to my humans, right, I need to ensure that it works right, which means that it cannot keep an open area for, that device to be hacked, but is working with the patient critical data. Every industry is working with IoT in some way or the other today. Now you may ask, why am I moving from cybersecurity to these technologies, right? If you go and pick each technology, I challenge you, let me know if there is no cybersecurity issue related to any of these, right? So, I'll give you an example. If I take 5G today, we are working with an automotive company, right? In Europe, if you see tomorrow, cars will work on V2V, V2X, like, which means the cars will communicate with the cars will communicate with the infrastructure, signaling, right? So, your next gen solutions are going to work, and in some countries, they're already working on 5G, right? So, we will be working on 5G as well. When you talk about these large solutions, when a telecom service provider comes up with these solutions, they will work at the network level, right? But when you're looking at end-to-end integration, leveraging 5G, leveraging multi-cloud or these technologies, your system integrator has to do a great job of ensuring, A, that everything works as per the design solution. But what we often fail to understand is that each of the devices, now look at it from this perspective, each device, each hardware, each software that goes into building that use case is going to also, if not programmed correctly, open an area, for it to be breached, right? Which means a hacker can come and look at an IoT device, try to hack it. So if your solution is not completely aligned to the standards, if it's not gone through the right security testing, if it's not gone through, you know what, I will say in industrial, now there is one regulation which says IEC 62443, right? Now, if you're looking at IEC 62443, many will say, yes, we are compliant to this. But if you start going through each of these IEC 62443, 4.1, 1.1, 4.2, you'll understand that if I am looking at an IoT platform here today, I really need to ensure that I go up to IEC 62443, 4.2, where even my gateways and my servers will be having a certificate or have an IoT compliance today. So, we really need to go at a solution level to that, I will say to that edge or that last component, where you can ensure that your entire solution, that your entire infrastructure, the software, the solution, the hardware, everything is encrypted. You need to look at a device, the firmware, you need to look at the associated solutions, right? So, there can be so many misconfigurations in your entire system, and that is why when I am talking about these mega trends here, these are here and these will stay. But what is really required from every industry per se is to ensure that you can look at, you say, a firmware security, a device level security. You can look at more authentication or encryption protocols. When an IoT infrastructure, the IoT device is talking to an IoT device, have you done a device configuration and authorization correctly? Have you done a PKI solution or an HSM solution which will ensure that you have the right encryption standards, right? So, each industry needs to be evaluated for the use case that they are building, leveraging these technologies. Now, hybrid or multi-cloud will come with its own challenges, right? Because you are looking at multiple clouds. So, the first challenge itself is companies, when they started looking at cloud, did not plan, did not have a strategy for cloud. They started looking at it as, okay, one cloud, and then I have a different application, a different service. Then I realized, okay, I need to look at a multi-cloud strategy. But what is really happening in a multi-cloud strategy is, again, from a security standpoint, what are the kind of configurations, right? Can I get a proper visibility across both the clouds? Every cloud provider will have its own protocols, right, at the end of the day. Does your requirement really align with that, right? So, are you looking at different policies, different clouds? It is something that, you want to control, but after a point, I think the IT or the security, personnel feel that, okay, it's going beyond control. So, I think each technology has to be evaluated, like I said, for every use case, and you may need to look at each of the mega trends, which are a driver today for your industries, but at the same time, from a security standpoint, may also, bring in its own challenges. This is something that we all are going through, zero-day threats. We don't know what kind of malwares are coming every day into our system, right? I try to give a larger perspective of the industries, the way they are facing the challenge. Even within the nature of the threats that we are seeing, we do not know how many malware definitions are already created, right? So, every day we are looking at a zero-day threat. We are looking at social engineering threats which are coming, right? Twitter accounts also got hacked. So even the best of solutions that you're building around, we are still facing these issues which are going to create a challenge for governance, data protection, right? And we have data privacy already in a lot of countries, and we will soon see a lot of these regulations even coming into India in some way, because if we have to do business, with global regions, we have to ensure that somewhere the policies across the regions also are aligned, right? So, we will see these malicious activities which are eroding digital trust, which is happening a lot, which means that again identities really need to be trusted, and how are you going to build that trust if you do not have the right encryption technologies? There is increasing attack services, there is regulatory political uncertainties, again war situations coming, cross-border hacking which is happening. So, there are a lot of threats which are coming, which is going to challenge the way an enterprise is going to work or define their strategy. But again, to build that cyber resilience, you really need to tap. So, are you going to keep a tap of each of these threats separately? No. So, which means what is it next, right? You need to prepare for a borderless security. And why I say borderless security? Today we are not working in that enterprise space alone, right? We have moved out. We have our resources working at home. We have our resources working, on the road. If there are salespeople, we have resources working in office. right? Global resources, right? We have a different infrastructure. Now we need to cross that perimeter, right? So the new perimeter is pushing us to put a lot of our applications on the cloud, which we have. I don't think there is any organization today who will say I don't have something running on the cloud, right? First thing is, you need to secure all your applications in the cloud, secure your endpoints, secure your devices, right? You also need to look at all the unknown threats, right? But when I say unknown, is how will you do that when you don't even know what kind of a threat you're dealing with, right? So, you have in many companies, what they have done is in their SOC today, you have a SIEM installed, right? With the SIEM, what is happening is you have identified those data sources, you're pulling in those data logs, and then you're trying to analyze the threat patterns, correct? But it has its own pros and cons, right? While it is doing 10 things properly, there are 5 things that challenge today a SIEM infrastructure, right? And that's the reason you're getting a lot of false positives, when it comes to your threat intel. Now, how are you going to reduce those false positives? What is the next generation technology that you really need to identify that unknown threat, right? So you need to not work just around the known, work around the unknown, strengthen your perimeter which goes outside into the cloud, right? Create a platform approach. When I say platform, everybody has firewalls today here in your infrastructure, right? You're managing firewall, you're looking at endpoints separately, you're looking at 10 solutions, and security is one where even I today find it difficult to track the 500 or the 1,000 players listed doing different things, right? So it's a very, very huge space where if I'm going to track everything separately, as a IT head, as a CISO, my task is very, very, very troublesome if I have to look at different visibility, right? So can I look at a platform approach which can pull all those data sources in one place so that I can look at what's happening in my infrastructure as a holistic view, right? And then we are talking about end-to-end visibility which you need and which has to be very adaptive, which means that I not necessarily create a rule for it, which means that as I sense something coming into my infrastructure, it should be so contextual and adaptive that I am able to figure out what is actually happening into my network. So, my 2 cents on what are the 2 other things from a technology standpoint that will become mainstream and that every enterprises from here onwards are evaluating or will be evaluating at least for the next decade. We need to look at extended threat detection. Now, I will tie this back to what CERT-IN says. CERT-IN says if you have to report that threat in 6 hours, you are not able to achieve that today with your current infrastructure. So, if you have an extended threat detection solution available, right, this is one of the key pieces. And if you look at, we try to map, all the different challenges and the impact of these challenges to an enterprise today, right. So, the biggest challenge today is that, we are working on legacy. We need to break that legacy and come to another platform where we are able to have threat detection techniques, in a way that it gives me a holistic view of threats from every corner. When I say every corner means from the endpoint, from the emails, from my data center, right, from the cloud. So if I have a unified visibility, if I need that, I should require an extended threat detection solution, XDR if you see, right. So tomorrow, and as we move forward, we will see XDR become one of the mainstream, which will look beyond the challenges that currently enterprises are facing, where today they lack control, they're looking at only point solutions, which means I have one solution sitting here to detect what's happening in my firewall, the other EDR is sitting and looking at what's happening in my endpoints, right? No. We need to break those silos, we need an extended solution that can give a comprehensive visibility, and that will be achieved through extended threat detection solutions. The second thing that I'm talking about here is we are in a new perimeter today, right? And a new perimeter, I was talking about borderless security. We need to look outside that enterprise today. When we were within that enterprise, we were good with anything that was on-premise. Now that we have moved it to the cloud, we need to secure that cloud, and a solution that delivers or provides you security delivered through the cloud is nothing but SASE today, right? So secured access, security, edge, which means that it is going to help you secure all elements. Now, because if you see the SASE infrastructure, on one side you have the network components and the other side you have all the security components. And these security components largely are delivered through the cloud. So your CASB solutions, your secure web gateway, your firewall as a service, your zero trust, And what zero trust will do is largely look at all the threats which are coming into your network, even if you authenticate a user coming into your network, but after coming in, if that user is creating some malicious activity and now it is a part of suspension, what ideally an enterprise does is it opens up that space, lets the user come in if it's authenticated. But after authentication, if that user is compromising any of your system servers, you fail to notice that because A, that user was an authentic user according to you, right? Which means that we need to go on zero trust. Keep looking at all the data packets that are in your network coming from anywhere, right? So it's coming from your network, something coming from your endpoint, but as long as you have something that's moving between your cloud, right? Because cloud is going to be something where today most of your applications reside, and this is a security which is going to be offered to you through the cloud. But SASE in itself, again, currently because it's relatively new, it will have its own loopholes. Why? Because we are trying to integrate network functionalities and security functionalities. Largely these two teams are working, differently, right? So currently it's about the ownership and who's actually going to configure this completely. Second key problem that I see currently, and I'm sure, as we proceed in the next couple of years, we will see a lot of, these challenges getting overcome. The point is who is the vendor who can offer you that full stack solution? Today there is no one. Everybody defines, zero trust or SASE the way it is convenient to them for their solutions. So somebody will say my CASB solution is a SASE solution. Somebody will say, okay, I have an identity access solution, you can use it for zero trust. But no, I think there has to be a completely stitched story where you can look at, web gateways, you can look at CASB, etc., all integrated as a one-stitched story offered to you as a service from the cloud, right? So these are the two things, according to us, that will become mainstream. So just to reiterate, protect that digital asset, and that digital asset is, right, your server, your endpoint, your user, everything. Don't look at it just from the outside as the security pillars like web security, networks. You already have those solutions. I would say those are the point solution, but keep looking, within, right, which means that keep updating, look at the policies, look at the governance, right? So you need to have a complete visibility, and for that, this security kaleidoscope talks about the 360-degree approach that you need to take from the outside to the inside, and also tie everybody along with it, your customers, your partners, the third parties that are connected in your supply chain, right, your own users, because the threat could be even internal. Somebody could be, breaching you right from inside your own corporate network, correct? So you need a strategy which covers everything, right, from your distribution to your partners, end users, everybody. So, in terms of, building a resilient cybersecurity strategy, start with your culture. I think it has to start with the top management down to every employee who can take that ownership of at least, where you can go wrong is at least, when the emails come to you, don't click on the unauthorized links, right? So there has to be a sense of responsibility with each individual to ensure that, that cybersecurity culture is imbibed. Look at a platform approach that can give you complete visibility. Look at, enhance security and continuously do the risk assessment and GRC. Like I mentioned, industry-specific assessments are there to help you, but not many industries take it as something that is mandatory, right? Today, those compliances are mandatory in the critical national infrastructure, your utilities, etc., your power energy segments, or governments, or to some extent in the banking, right? What about the other industry? There are those policies available. I would say that you need to take that step forward and embrace this so that, you ensure that you are working with that, within that, defense. Lastly, these are some of the, top predictions that come from us, and some of these I already mentioned. Your technologies are going to create, right, as you kind of go ahead with any of these technologies, please evaluate the cyber risk associated, because I think considering that, okay, we are working with next gen technology, we often fail to evaluate the risk associated with each of these technologies. Ransomware, cloud security, API security, I think for the next couple of years, you keep hearing this often because I don't think we are prepared as an enterprise today. So this will continue to be the focus for a lot of IT heads, the CISOs. Industrial OT security, or when I'm talking about commercial consumer IoT device security, I think this is a segment at very, very high risk because we do not have the solutions well implemented today or available today in these industries. Because even if it's available, these industries, industrial particularly the manufacturing sector, is not really working according to us on these governance compliance protocols to ensure that their end-to-end IoT security infrastructure is running. State-sponsored cyber espionage will continue to be on a rise. We were talking about AI some time back, right? That there will be very many bots, but sometimes we don't realize that these bots could also be the reason for the cyber incidents, right? Largely. So we need to understand which is the most authentic bot here. Countries will be witnessing privacy laws for personal data protection. We already see a lot in Europe, but there are more countries that are talking, and as we continue to work with these other geographies, I think India itself will also, there was a plan in place. I think it's not implemented yet, but in the next couple of years, we should also see some plan around data protection, privacy. Industry standards and regulation, like I said, currently the CNI and fintech or the payments or the banking industry is following a lot of protocols, but I think it's time where automotive sector, the payments, the industrial sector also takes that plunge and follows some of these regulations. We will see this a lot in the global markets and in the India market. I think the usage of extended threat detection and response solutions will increase. We're also talking about zero trust, secure access that I touched upon some time back. This will increase because I think enterprises will want to protect that digital asset, right? And hence, enterprises will also look at security aware culture, which is not led just by top management, but please understand it is, like I said, an ownership of every individual. Enterprises will also look at solutions which don't offer, say, just a point solution. So today, if you want a zero trust or a SASE story, you will try to look at a provider who can give you that entire stitch story, right? So you would want to work, and that is what you will see, that the enterprises are moving in that direction, where they see that value coming in from that strategic partnership who can drive those cloud native security solutions to them over the cloud. And lastly, I think governments and other countries, if you see, for example, the Ukraine war, right? It just opened up, a Pandora problems to the countries. Many servers got hacked. So anytime there is some kind of an instability due to wars, due to due to the weather or any other reasons or any unplanned large incidents, what happens is you will see suddenly that the entire ecosystem that is connected to it gets breached in some way, right? So so there are some compromises that the associated ecosystem bear. We will see that large governments and at least the large leading enterprises will start having a team who can look at such kind of risk mitigation plans and work on these. So these are some of top of the mind trends that we see in the industry. Happy to answer any questions if you have.
Thank you for the great presentation.
Thank you.
One question I had, topic is fairly new, but the Rupee, digital rupee, has it yet come into your radar from a security standpoint?
Because this has not got implemented in a way, right? So I think, but when it's coming into play, it is coming at the back of the blockchain technology, which is already known to be very trusted when it comes to the encryption technologies it follows, right? So from that per se, I still believe it is going to be far more secure. But if there are any loopholes, it will only come to know when we see it implemented. But I think because it sits at the base of the blockchain, I think it should be working in a much better way in a decentralized pattern, and that is why I think it should offer you at least a little more security than other.
Yeah, the immutability in blockchain should.
Yes, it should.
Thank you.
Because decentralized applications, even in the other industrial or other use cases, have have been found to be more secure, right? So I think blockchain and that per se sets a lot of, it takes away your security concerns to an extent, right? Because of the encryptions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. The presentation was very good and was so informative. My question is that you spoke about India's ranking among 182 countries. We are on 10th level, 10th rank. As a cybersecurity analyst, what is your opinion about the cyberspace security of India? Because especially when you say, recently we have heard back-to-back 3-4 cyber attacks in India. One of the power distribution company, then All India Institute of Medical Sciences, then ICMR and other things. When we checked about the attack on the 𝐵𝐸𝐴IMS, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, the attack happened on the software developed by NIC, National Informatics Center, which is very much part of CERT-In and the government of India. So how secure is the Indian cyberspace? As a cyber analyst, what do you want to say?
So I think there is a loophole everywhere, and I will agree, right? But it does not mean that the enterprises are not spending. You've seen that trend, and in fact, I've been tracking the market for the last couple of years. We've seen that spend increase. I think what dialogue we have today with the CISOs has completely changed. We used to go to them and talk to them, okay, how is your network security solution doing? What are your firewalls doing? Nobody is talking that. Nobody is talking that because A, that is not the goal, right? If you talk about it from the India, the context, the larger breaches that are happening, globally also there are breaches happening. If you believe that the company who's ranked #1 here, USA, is not getting breached, then the answer is no. The number 3, I think, is Saudi Arabia. Again, there, since I track that market, there are a lot of breaches. So it is not that if the breaches are happening, then my ranking should have been low, right? The breaches are happening because there are loopholes and because so many mega trends I spoke to you about, right? There are so many technologies. One other important thing is that we've started looking at DevSecOps, right? So we were talking about DevOps till now. So what we have started looking at is security by design. Now this security by design is coming into mainstream. Not only where there is core, design coding just required, but if you see that design coding is required today even in the payments and fintech industry, right? Which means that when I talk about SBD, when you are developing that solution itself, you need to ensure that, it is secure to implement. Earlier what was happening is you design a solution, you take it to the market and then understand, okay, that there are many loopholes. But today, what everybody is welcoming is, secure by design, which means that you take the solution first. As you are developing, your coders will, put this into that vulnerability assessment, right? And we will understand what are the loopholes. So I think as a country, and I think globally that's what's happening is, we are taking that step towards making the solution itself very strong, right? Encrypted, where the device, the vulnerabilities at the hardware level, firmware level, software level are tested before even if it sits into the solution. Like I'm not even talking about the solution being deployed outside. So before you have that line of code sitting into your complete solution, which is going to be tested, so your lines of codes are getting tested. So we will see DevSecOps also come into the mainstream. Country is hacked, and I think there are many loopholes. I was talking, somebody else was also, I think, talking about 𝐴IMS server, being hacked. And I don't see that, once you are hacked, you really have something, you'll really go back to your drawing room and understand what really exploited that server, right? And you try to do that correction. I think of the recent announcements that are coming in from CERT-In and the other directives from the government are completely taking into visibility or, taking into account the larger breaches that are happening to the critical infrastructure and the governments also, while it is also happening with enterprise. So I think we are in that journey. So I don't think that, all the solutions today, and even the XDR that I'm talking about today, the SASE solution that I'm talking to today, that will be here mainstream for the next couple of years. They also already have some loopholes, right? So when you are implementing this, it's not that, you say that I wait for the last, I am as a last company going to be deploying that solution, but I'm sure you will also, take the plunge in and you will deploy the solution. There are some loopholes that you need to work out with. If the hacker knows that, okay, there is a loophole there, the hacker is, I think the hackers also have today solutions which are AI enabled, if I were to say. So I think they're also smart enough to have, you know, a lot of intelligence built into their hacking solutions to understand where the loopholes are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, hello. I'm Santosh Pandey from Birla Carbon Aditya Birla Group.
Hi.
My question is related to, and you mentioned well regarding IC 62443. So it's more on the IT OT related or industrial cybersecurity.
Right.
So my take is ultimately when we talk about in the manufacturing parlance, the last mile things is coming to the functional safety, where the breach is happening on the major industrial automation systems and all. So now my question, like what your research says with the OEMs involved in the industrial automation side, how they take inherent industrial cybersecurity while we are increasing the number of the devices, IoTs with the conventional automation system. And the same time where the IT-OT interface is getting on the higher strength and the granularity and density getting increase, how they are taking with what lenses to increase at the product level stage itself, the increase into the quotient of the industrial cybersecurity.
So is your question, I mean, let me know if I got it right, to know about what these players are doing in that ecosystem?
Exactly, yeah.
So I think if you look at the OT security landscape, right, you'll see all your Siemens, Schneiders, ABB of the world developing those industrial control, PLCs, SCADAs, and you know the solutions. If you see, a lot of them have already partnered with security OEMs. These are the mainframe security OEMs. I think there's a Cisco OT Vision solution. Then there's something from Kaspersky which can look at IoT security solutions. I'm just, sorry, I'm bad at names, but then there are so many vendors out there where all these mainframe industrial security providers, which are from the hardware or the software solution per se, have partnered already with the OEMs. Why? Because when they offer that industrial solution to the enterprises today, they ensure that A, they can remotely manage and monitor and control all these OT devices. What they are not looking at, what I feel is currently, OT is still to an extent looked at silos, and you know IT is still separate. But then there are many industries that have, you know, putting that together, and we are seeing that converge. So while there will be chances of IT threats moving into the OT or the OT threats moving into the IT, slowly I think these partnerships that are getting built up by the system, even the system integrators are there, then you have these industrial control solution providers, they have evaluated, you know, the kind of cyber risk associated with the IoT, etc. Then there are other companies that we've been working with, and you know, to talk about Hitachi, etc. They're working at the device level, so that when you ensure that you have that component coming into your industrial ecosystem, they are already working on the device hardening, the firmware level issues, the misconfigurations that can happen there. So I think the entire ecosystem is already working towards that. There are, like I will say from the beginning of my presentation, I'm saying there are still loopholes, right, because that's a journey. But those things are taking place where, you know, the holistic view of what's happening to your OT infrastructure, the visibility part. So they are working on those remote stocks from where they can look at all your IoT assets, right, even your OT assets, so as to, you know, monitor everything. And also then moving in the next step to look at, you know, how to ensure that these threats, you know, when they come into the system, you know, you can reduce those false positives, which means that, you know, you can identify the right threats, the right action. So that visibility part, you know, that SOC which is required to monitor all your PLC SCADA, so that everything is being worked out. So I think once you go through anything latest which is coming with these partnerships with all these large ABB, Schneider, Honeywell and Rockwell and all, and if you go to see, I think they have got all these partnerships already in place. But some may have a preference, okay, some are good at an endpoint today, some may be good at some other solution today. So somewhere we will see even a lot of consolidation, a lot of partnerships in that ecosystem to ensure that, you know, they can give you an end-to-end solution. Done? Let me know if there are some questions.
Are there any questions? Thank you so much, Parminder ma'am. Thank you so much for being here. And we still have a task to complete.